Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Freaky Friday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, joined by Sterling Holmes and producer Richard. It is good to be back. I've been on vacation. It's been a while since I've done a show. It's been a while since I've done a show with you, Sterling. Excited about this. We are going to hit on the confusing Rashee Rice suspension hearing situation. We're going to hit on that. And we're going to do a game preview because the Chiefs play football tonight. We don't know which Chiefs play football tonight, but I'm pretty certain we won't see Patrick Mahomes from what it sounds like. We won't see Travis Kelce. We won't see Chris Jones. We'll talk about who we will see. Sterling, before we jump into it, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I am bleeping stoked for Chiefs season. Something about coming off of a loss that almost has me more excited. I know it's weird. The Chiefs are going for a history and going for the three-peat, but you almost get complacent. It's like the silver spoon needed to be cleaned and the help was nowhere to be found. So we had to clean the silver spoon ourselves. Things are still great in Chiefs Kingdom, but you know what? They took that creme brulee away from me before I was finished. Now let's go back and get that final bite of said creme brulee. I'm all in right now on this upcoming Chiefs season. I'm amped because you have 31 other teams and fan bases saying the Chiefs are done. You're hearing the national media saying the Chiefs are finished. It's Broncos. It's Chargers. It's absurd. There's even one team now in the AFC West has overtaken KC. Now it's two teams. They can kick rocks and pound sand. That's what they can both do. Chargers, pound sand out there in LA. Denver kick rocks because the mountains. Boom. We got it figured out right there. I'm all in on KC this year. Let's ride.
It's so obvious what's happened. All these people, whether it was the media or opposing fan bases, were biding their time. And as soon as the Chiefs showed a little bit of vulnerability, they've all pounced. And they're doing this. I mean, shit, we do this every offseason. Like, is the dynasty done? Is there a different QB1? And I mean, don't they ever get tired of this song and dance? It is so fraudulent. We all know how this ends. Come January, they're all going to be saying, why did I ever doubt the Chiefs? It happens every single year. I saw today that the Chiefs are actually third in the odds to win the AFC. Never mind that they've won the AFC 5 of 6 years. Never mind that the two teams ahead of them, the Bills and the Ravens, have never won the AFC during this stretch. At least the Bengals have done it. You know, I mean, at least Joe Burrow and the Bengals have accomplished that feat. I don't know. It's driving me crazy. And I have a take on the preseason. I actually don't want to win preseason games because I think if you're winning preseason games, that means your starters are in for too long because they have kinks to work out. I like them going in, having a good run, drawing a penalty, hitting that 1-yard touchdown and saying, we're a well-oiled machine. Nothing more to see here. We feel good about our offensive line. We feel good about our quarterback and our play calling. Let's evaluate the guys that we don't know how they're going to impact the roster.
Aerosmith has a great song about it. Same old song and dance, baby.
That's it. And they have another great song, Back in the Saddle. I'm glad that football is here. Not truly real football, but close enough that I can start to smell that game in Brazil. That might be the field too. That field is pretty awful, but knock on wood that works out. Let's jump right into a quick Rashee Rice suspension update. A couple tweets from ESPN insider Dan Graziano sum this up well. Rashee Rice context. League player union discussed discipline, but couldn't reach agreement. So case will be heard by Sue L. Robinson, who oversaw Deshaun Watson disciplinary hearing in 2022. My understanding is that the date is September 30th because that's when it fits into her schedule. In 2022, Watson hearing began on June 28th. Robinson issued her decision, which is a 6-game suspension, on August 1st. League appealed, and League Watson settled on an 11-game suspension on August 18th. Obviously, no guarantee of same timeline here, but that's the only other NFL discipline case Robinson has handled. So this will likely make Rashee available for the first 4 games of the regular season. Those first 4 games are the Chargers game in Brazil, the Eagles at Arrowhead, the Giants on the road, and the Ravens at Arrowhead. I mean, personally, I'm over the moon about him playing against the Eagles because the Eagles fans have just taken this victory lap tour as far as a fan base and team could possibly take it. And I'm just dying to exact even a little bit of revenge. And following that same timeline, the decision could drag out until November. There just isn't much of a precedent here. So NFL suspensions apply to all games, including the postseason. While the league typically avoids impacting the playoffs, and no modern star has missed a Super Bowl run, precedent shows suspensions can still cost postseason games. I don't think that's going to be what happens with Rashee Rice, but it was worth mentioning. Robinson's timeline will be key here. And I also think there's a chance that the NFLPA and Rice and the NFL maybe settle this thing before the season starts. Not out of the realm of possibilities. Sterling, I've thrown a lot at you. What are your overarching thoughts here?
Yeah, okay. Let's get into the actual law aspect for a second. Let's start with the Sue Robinson part, because I think it's interesting that she was the one to overhear the Deshaun Watson situation. I believe Watson's camp wanted 2 games, if I'm not mistaken, and the NFL wanted an entire season. So they were so far apart, they said, all right, let's take it to Sue Robinson. And Sue was lenient and said 6. Now, what we also have to remember is once she gives her opinion, as long as it's not 0 games, right? If she says 0 games or there's nothing there, what happens? Well, now that's actually what it is. But we don't expect her to say 0 games or find Rashee Rice of no wrongdoing because it's on camera. We have stuff that it's at least in regards to being bad for the Shield that is in the framework of what the NFL can basically try and get games for. So what we're going to basically see now is Sue Robinson, who was very lenient the first time around, but that doesn't really matter what she comes down with, because at the end of the day, Roger Goodell has the final say. I know we like to think it's all whatever she says goes. If she says 4 games, hey, it's 4 games. No, the NFL more than likely will then appeal, and Goodell, while not being the judge, jury, and executioner, pretty much is the judge, jury, and executioner, because the Deshaun Watson case, she said 6. They go, okay, we're still going to give you 11. And eventually Deshaun Watson and their camp said, okay, fine, we will acquiesce and we will agree to said 11 games. I don't think this is even in the realm of possibility of 11 games for Rashee Rice, but this does tell me they're at least semi-far apart. Also could be the case that maybe the Chiefs want to accept. Maybe Rashee Rice wants to accept. But the NFLPA says we are not setting an example for this, because some of the previous examples of this are actually only 1 and 2 games. See, the Addison situation is interesting because there's a distinct place in the NFLPA in the writing that if you get a DUI, it's 3 games. There's no real appeal for that. It's what it is. It's been agreed upon by the players. This is a whole entire different situation. There's not a great framework laid out. So there's no real guidelines of, is it 1 game? Is it 2? Is it 6? Is it 8? We will find out. But again, there's also the situation of, hey, let's say he plays the first game of the season against the Chargers, AFC West battle, which Andy Reid has talked about, saying the AFC West is going to be a lot more difficult this upcoming season. We've talked about that. We know about that. What if after game 1 he goes, yeah, we'll accept whatever the offer already was? That could be the case. That's my conspiracy, not this overarching that the Chiefs, get all the calls, because let's be real now. When did Willie Gay Jr. get suspended? In the middle of the season. When did Frank Clark get suspended? In the middle of the season. When were their off season, or when were their arrests actually happening? In the off season. So for all the people, PFT, who keep talking about how is this happening? This is unfounded. You just look to Kansas City a few years ago when they've had multiple situations happen in season when guys get suspended. This is normal. So for me, what it comes down to is he'll play probably at least the first 4 games, unless he decides after probably the Chargers game, if that's the case, hey, you know what? I'll accept right now. Go ahead and accept, and then I'll come back for the Denver game. I'll come back for more of the AFC West games, the ones that have even extra importance on the real schedule. I know we want them there for the Lions game and the Eagles game, but that's NFC games. Those are NFC games. If you're actually thinking logically as far as scheduling and what really matters, the most important games, it is those AFC West games. I know I said a lot. I do have some interesting thoughts on this. At least I think I do. Because even if he goes till September 30th and then this happens after all the appeals and everything, it might not be until week 11. Hell, it might not be until 2026 until we see the actual repercussions come through. Either way, those that think there's some conspiracy to help KC, I think you are a dumbass. And PFT, who, by the way, Florio, you even came out yesterday and laid out the entire groundwork in a good article. Nice. I'm giving you credit. And then today you came out and basically bashed what you already said and what you already know just for clicks. That to me was sad.
The original post didn't put up numbers, didn't do traffic. So he had to go fishing again. And that's really what's going on here. The Chiefs are not only the epicenter of the NFL, not only the epicenter of sports culture. With Taylor Swift this week, they're the epicenter of American culture. So conspiracy theorizing about the Chiefs is big business. Doubting the Chiefs is big business. People have Chiefs fatigue, about as bad as any team we've ever seen. I mean, this is on par with Patriots fatigue, and maybe worse because of how present Travis Kelce is in pop culture. I think there's a lot of fatigue there. I also want to mention Charles Omenihu's suspension for people that think the league is going to go light on the Chiefs. That was a 6-game suspension, and that didn't really line up with some other suspensions that had happened before it that were more like 4 games. So with all this rampant speculation and all the league cheats for the refs talk that's going on, the last thing Roger Goodell is going to want to be seen doing is going soft on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not going to happen. And like you said, these guys that have DUIs, I saw some 49ers fans bitching about Demarcus Robinson. Well, Demarcus Robinson's situation, there's no gray area. We know that it's a 3-game suspension, like you pointed out. There's a clear precedent for it. But Rashee Rice's situation is a little bit more murky. It's not exactly it's not as bad as Deshaun Watson's. It's pretty bad. We're not going to sugarcoat what Rashee did here, but it's just kind of a tricky situation. And the NFLPA is really in his ear, pushing him not to take too long of a suspension because that will be bad for other players down the road. So guys, Rashee might have been willing to come to the table. Same with the Chiefs, same with the league. And it could be the NFLPA saying, no, this is going to be bad for other players. Don't do it. Let's fight it. That's what they do. That's what they're here for.
Correct. And from the on-field perspective, if you want a positive here, which I think there are a couple, I think the main positive is it is hard for rookies to get involved early in an Andy Reid offense. So you let Rashee Rice play the first 4 weeks, maybe a couple more, depending on when the suspension will eventually get thrown down. What's that mean? That means Jalen Royals can now be more integrated into the offense and actually have a better feel. Maybe it finally gets a little work in. Then who takes over? Well, now you're seeing more Royals instead of Juju. Now you actually might see Jalen Royals understanding the offense even more. So if you want a positive from a KC perspective, that's the positive I will throw you. If you want a negative, it means someone's getting cut. This probably means a Nico Remigio, a Jason Brownlee, it could be even a Tyquan Thornton, because we all assume to start the year, right? If they keep 6 wide receivers, that's kind of the norm. I know we like to think 7, but if you're keeping 4 tight ends and you're keeping 4 running backs, that also means that's not counting Carson Steele. I mean, the numbers get tight. They get tight quick. Wide receiver 6 and 7 typically aren't doing a ton to begin with. So then you start playing the number crunch. Who can you start stashing the practice squad? Because whenever he does start the suspension, you're going to have to get a guy who's on the practice squad and call that dude up. So there's some interesting conversations to be had of, well, if Rashee Rice isn't suspended, which is what it's looking like for the first 4 games of the season, who was now the odd man out? Because it was 2 guys fighting for 3 spots. Now it might be 1 guy or 3 guys fighting for 1 spot.
The other variable here is Hollywood Brown's availability. He's still struggling with an ankle issue. The guy I'm getting Sammy Watkins deja vu here. He just cannot stay on the field. He appears to be made of glass. I'm rooting for him, but I'm not counting on him. That's where I'm at. So if he isn't available for week 1, it's good that Rashee Rice is, but also that could make another roster spot available potentially, even if it's just for a little while. Love your point on Jalen Royals. He can sit there and learn this complicated offense. I think it's harder for wide receivers almost in any other position in the Andy Reid offense other than quarterback, because you're learning 3 positions. You're not learning 1, you're not learning 2, you're learning 3. They move these guys around. They want them to be interchangeable. Let him be the understudy for a month to 6 weeks, and he'll be ready to go. When do Andy Reid rookie receivers start to show up? During the second half of the season. I expect that to be the case with Jalen Royals. Let's move on to preseason week 2. It's here. Chiefs at Seahawks. Let's preview that game. We're going to start with analyzing the coach speak. So trusting Andy Reid's comments about the preseason, I think that's a little bit of a fool's errand, right? Last week we saw one yard pass from Mahomes, and then he got the hook. He's saying starters won't play this week, which is kind of at odds with past trends for him, but I guess we have to kind of take him at his word. Who do we think will sit out tonight, Sterling?
Yeah, I think all the big guys. I think you won't see Patrick, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, probably Trent McDuffie. I think the offensive line you'll see. I think you'll see the ones because I think they want to give Gardner Minshew some run underneath there because you want to see Kingsley Suamataia, obviously, as well as Josh Simmons. They're basically switching game 2 and game 3. Since they switched to a 3-game preseason, game 2 was all right, we're going to go out with a a few drives of Patrick, and then pull the starters. Well, now it feels like that's going to be game 3, which if you were here in Kansas City or you're going to that preseason game, you probably thought you weren't going to see Patrick, Travis, Chris Jones, or the like. Now you might be saying, all right, that final preseason game in Arrowhead, you might be seeing some starters. So congratulations. Your ticket just got more fun and more valuable. I don't hate it because what this does, and I'm sure Brett Veach had and Andy Reid obviously had a lot of thought into this. Well, now you get to see how the actual roster battle progresses. It's easier to see it in game 2. That gives you another week into game 3 of, okay, is Najee Johnson or Josh Williams? Is it Brownlee? Is it Remigio? Is it Tyquan Thornton? So I think it's actually a smart idea. Again, we've not had a long sample size of the 3-game preseason. There's still some figuring out process in it. You're now seeing teams around the NFL start playing their starters more often. I like it. I like what Andy's doing. I like it because I also think Veach had a part in this to help figure out the roster construction. Let's say Elijah Mitchell doesn't pop in game 2. Well, now you have a better chance of seeing, is he on the roster? Do the Chiefs need to bring in a veteran running back? Or he does pop. Okay, we're okay in the spot now. It's way easier doing that in game 2 versus game 3, right? So I think you'll see the starting offensive line. I think you'll see a ton of Gardner Minshew, but I think you might even see Elijah Mitchell run with the ones to try and see what does he look like behind a first-string offensive line, not C.J. Hansen and Hunter Norzad and Mike Caliendo.
That is my big concern. Let's move on to Mike McDonald, the coach of the Seahawks. He says he's playing his starters. It makes sense. They have a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. They have a new offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak. Cooper Kupp is a new piece. I know Kenneth Walker hasn't been healthy traditionally a lot of the past several seasons. I think they really need to get this, kind of work the kinks out for their offense. And I like that. It should tell us a lot for the young Chiefs players, because a lot of times you have these young rookies and these promising talents on the Chiefs playing against 2s and 3s. And it's really like, yeah, they look good out there against these guys, but is it really an accurate test of what the NFL is going to be like during the regular season? It is not. My big issue here, and you pointed it out, is I want to see the offensive line against their defensive line, the number 1 offensive line. And I think the reason why you can't sit Creed out is, well, I want to see how much help Kingsley Suamataia needs, and from Creed Humphrey. I want to see how Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia look playing alongside each other. And if Trey Smith and Jawan Taylor are out, and you play Creed Humphrey or you have a different center, they're helping more over there. They can't help Kingsley. It just throws the whole thing out of whack. As we know, continuity is key on offensive line, probably more than anywhere else, even though I'd say the secondary might be a close second. And last week we saw Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco have two good runs, one apiece, behind the right side of that line. It was a draw. It didn't really tell us anything except maybe Pacheco looked like he had a little bit of juice left. Maybe Kareem Hunt hasn't slowed down as much as we feared. But, they're running behind the best part of the line. They're running behind Creed and Trey. That is a good place to be for an NFL running back. Meanwhile, Elijah Mitchell and Rashard Smith were running behind a dysfunctional second unit line, and that just didn't tell us much. I still kind of have an incomplete grade on both of those players. I saw one thing that I liked from Elijah Mitchell catching a pass in the passing game. I saw one good pass pro rep from Rashard Smith, but we just didn't get to see a lot of them in an ideal situation. And I think tonight might be the night for that. So since we're getting into deeper player takes, let's move on to the next part of this segment. And it is all eyes on them, players to watch. And since we love to gamify everything here on this program on Freaky Friday, we're going to do a draft. We'll trade off picking players we are most interested in evaluating tonight. 5 players apiece with a short back and forth on what makes them an intriguing watch. We're going to rapid fire this. Sterling, start us off with your number 1 player to watch tonight.
I'm going to go with someone that you probably don't even have on your list at all, but I'm doing it because I feel strongly about this, and it's wild, but I had a wild take last year that Christian Roland Wallace was going to make the 53-man roster. He did, right? So I want to try this one more time. I want to go out on a limb again and say, here's another guy who I think is not being talked about enough, but I think it's going to make the 53-man roster and it's going to surprise people. Esapole. I think Esapole is now the developmental prospect in the offensive line that the Chiefs are going to keep. Last year is C.J. Hansen and Ethan Driscoll. Driscoll's now almost listed as a guard, and he's been injured, appendectomy. And then C.J. Hansen has not necessarily taken the jump that we all thought. So what does that mean? Esapole looks really, really good so far. He's only recently started playing football. It's insane. I'm not saying it's a Jordan Mailata, like that's what we should expect, but one can dream. I also think in 2027, when Jawan Taylor gone after this year, you have one more year of Jalen Moore. That gives you a couple of years to really try and figure out what do you have in Esapole. Can he be your right tackle of the future? I'm going on a limb here. Crazy take, but people called me crazy for CRW last year. Esapole.
I love it so much, man. And people are going to say, well, he's playing against third stringers. And while that might be true, footwork is footwork, man. And for a guy of his size, he's like refrigerator size. He has some nimble feet. He can really move. It's the ex-basketball player in him. And I think did he not play any football in high school at all?
That's right. Something along the lines of it was basketball, not football.
That's crazy. This is not an easy sport for people to pick up. It usually takes, we saw with Louis Rees-Zammit. He's already back overseas playing rugby again. This is not a game that you can come to late in life and pick up usually. So I was really impressed. Usually with basketball players, they're tight ends. We know that from, the converted Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, but here's a tackle that has a little bit bigger of a frame. I'm excited to see him. My number 1 is Elijah Mitchell. Maybe I'm trying to make fetch happen here. I don't know. I am really, really worried about the Chiefs running back room. That is why I think that it is the most under-discussed part of the collapse in the Super Bowl was that Vic Fangio had zero respect for that running game. He said these guys aren't going to break a long run if their life depends on it. You don't have to worry about them. Defensive linemen, pin your ears back. Back 7, turn your back on them. They're not going to beat us. Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco cannot beat us. So stop Patrick Mahomes. That's all that matters. We can't have that, man. We cannot have that, especially when in a league that ebbs and flows and kind of is cyclical. And now the running game, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago is running backs don't matter. Well, we are not at that place anymore. You look at the other contenders, it's Derrick Henry, it's Gibbs and Montgomery, it's Josh Jacobs. I mean, you could James Cook, you just keep going down the list. Saquon Barkley, of course. Christian McCaffrey, of course. All these other teams have good running backs. And what does that do? It opens up the deep passing attack because it keeps defenders honest. I want to see if Elijah Mitchell has more juice as a rusher, if he is one of these guys that can break off a 30 or 40-yard run. Because if he isn't, I think the Chiefs might be shopping for another running back, either on cut day or someone like, I don't know if it's, and I obviously have a man crush on this player, but I don't know if it's Alvin Kamara at the trade deadline, because the Saints are like, we're tanking. We got to like give Alvin a chance at a ring once in his life. Or if it's like Rachaad White, because Bucky Irving is a stud and Sean Tucker looks awesome as number 3. And maybe they're not so fond of Rachaad White on the last year of his contract. Maybe it's one of the guys from Jacksonville, but I'm worried about this position. So I'm going to go with Eli, number 1.
I'll stick with running back with you. I'll go Brashard Smith. I didn't think Brashard looked great. Again, really tough to tell from, again, the offensive line. He was playing behind. It's his really second year as a running back because he was a wide receiver prior to that. I know he can catch the ball in the backfield. I know that. I'm not worried in that regard. But I also want to see him as a special teamer more and more. I want to see if he can take that job. That would figure out a lot of the wide receiver room. I love Nico, but what pushes people? Having pressure behind you. Right now, there's not a lot of pressure behind Nico or Mio. He is the returner on this team, right? I mean, they clearly, though, don't trust him as a receiver. I mean, he came in after Brownlee and after Tyquan Thornton. I mean, that's basically what we've heard is, man, what they have shown is they trust Remigio as a returner, but not as a receiver. If Brashard can take that return spot or even help him out and have him both on kickoffs, right? That would alleviate some of the roster crunch, and then you could have Remigio be the guy called up whenever Rice gets suspended, right? That could solve some issues. So for me, I'll say Brashard Smith, and not just as a runner, but also as a special teamer.
Okay. I'm going to go to the cornerback room, and there's a lot of different choices here, and I might choose the double or triple dip as we go through this list. I'm going to start with Noel Williams. I loved what I saw in preseason week 1 from Noel. He is definitely a Spags corner. You see the tackling immediately, the physicality. That is the first thing that pops on tape. Also, his special teams prowess. Dave Tobe is going to love him. And then he had the excellent defense of the fade in the end zone. So just a snippet, just a glimpse of his potential. But I think he's going to be an important player as some guys like Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams and Najee Johnson leave this team, which I think is inevitable. We're going to need Noel Williams to become part of this rotation. I'm excited about him. That's my number 2.
Yeah, I like that. I'll go Kingsley Suamataia. Obvious. Quick thoughts on that. Kingsley, we've seen some nice plays of him at guard, mostly in the run game. You just can't have the disasters. You just can't have it. I don't care if he tripped or not. Eventually, we have to just say we can't have the disaster plays. What can the floor be with Kingsley? What can you bring where, okay, you have a bad game, but we can still play with you at left guard? That's what we need to see from Kingsley, because I do think there's still some upside left. He's obviously very, very athletic. When you get him out moving in the run game, it is fun to watch. I will also point out, he's always been a tackle. This is still new for him, too. I want to have a little bit of patience. I don't think it's fair. And again, it's the NFL, and life isn't fair, right? You're getting paid a lot of money. I get all that stuff. But, you know, he was a developmental guy to begin with at tackle, and now he's playing a new position at guard. Should be easier, yeah, but it's still new for him. I want to have at least a little bit of patience with him, but I want to see the floor start to raise on him, or else I don't know if they'll make a change eventually.
I was pretty hard on him last week, and I think that's because I felt like a lot of Chiefs Kingdom was a little too forgiving and a little too, he looks great, and he didn't look great. I don't think the sky is falling. It is very early in the Kingsley Suamataia to guard project. I think we should both have some patience and be realistic and temper our expectations. Number 3 for me is tight end Jared Wiley. I'm a little worried about Jared Wiley. It looked like to me he was favoring the knee last week a little bit. He still didn't look to have his old spring back. This is a very athletic guy. This isn't an inline blocking tight end. This is a move tight end, a glorified receiver who just looked super athletic coming out of TCU. And I didn't exactly see the same guy last week. Bizarrely, he graded out super well by PFF. I think PFF's grades in the preseason are, and I like PFF, but I think their preseason grades are garbage. They never make sense to me. I don't think they put as much time into them. And Big Bob Tonyan looks great. Robert Tonyan looks like he's going to make this final roster. He's making plays. Everybody's singing his praises. So Jared Wiley, I think he's one to watch.
Yeah. Like that a lot, because I do think he's a lot to prove. Because if the Chiefs only keep 3 tight ends, I think he's on the outside looking in. And if they play even 4 tight ends, he's a lot to prove, because he might be the guy who's inactive on game day, right? So I think you're right. Jared Wiley, a lot to prove. I will go with, this is fun now. I like this. I don't want to say Josh Simmons, because that's like too obvious, right? That's no fun. Saying Josh Simmons is
it's easy.
Brutal. Morgan says, it pisses me off. Everyone killing Kingsley for 2 bad reps, yet none of y'all are killing Moore, who absolutely sucked at right tackle, but whatever. I'm okay with Jalen Moore. He's been a right tackle. I'm not worried once the regular season rolls around. And I don't know if I'm killing Kingsley. I think I'm the one that's saying patient. I don't know if you're talking to me specifically. I'm team patience, but I get where you're coming from. Kingsley was getting crucified in regards to those 2 reps, and I've been trying to say have a little patience, but I think we agree to an extent, but there's a little disagreement there. But I appreciate the comment there. For me, I'll go the next person. Christian Fulton's supposed to get a little playing time, isn't he? I think so.
I was just on Twitter looking that up. I have no clue what they're going to do with him, but I'm very interested in seeing him.
A few days ago.
Yeah, he was out there.
We talked about it. So, you know what? I'll say, if he plays or not, I'll say Christian Fulton. Because if he doesn't play, then that has me a little more, okay. Not thrilled by this. I'm a huge Christian Fulton guy. We know this. I love the move. I was thrilled. So if he doesn't play, I'm going to have a little bit more of, all right, we're getting closer now. Starting to get a little nervous. So I'll say Christian Fulton, whether he plays or not.
Ronson Trait here. I think that's how we pronounce it. Ronson Trait is crushing the comments. He mentioned Byron Murphy on the defensive interior for Seattle. I think that's going to be a big matchup for Kingsley, Creed, and Trey. And then Torrey Horton out of Colorado State, a receiver that had an injury and was kind of underlooked, but is a crazy athlete. And apparently they think he's the next coming of Jerry Rice up in Seattle or something. The hype's a little out of control, but good player, I think, for sure. I'm going to do a doubleheader here. We're going to stick with cornerback. I'm going to do Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams just because I don't understand what the hell is going on. I do not understand Steve Spagnuolo's infatuation with Najee Johnson. I don't know if this is a meeting room thing where Joshua Williams is out to lunch behind closed doors and Najee Johnson is dialed in, and that's what Spags appreciates. Spags really he cares less about sometimes with his back 7 about how athletic you are. He wants the guys that have the good mental reps, that he can trust mentally to communicate, to be in the right place. And sometimes that's why we see Ben Neiman or whoever ahead of Willie Gay, or we see Daniel Sorensen playing ahead of Juan Thornhill. This is kind of a trend with Steve Spagnuolo, but I think both these guys are fighting for their professional lives. The thing we know about both of them are that they're good on special teams. They're really good on special teams. So that is a feather in their cap that Dave Toub might save them. But I don't know, man. I don't think there's enough room on the roster for both of them. And Josh Williams last year had a rough season, but 2 years ago, he was really good as part of that rotation. I have to think that one of these teams, that these Pete Carroll type defense teams that like big corners would be interested in trading for him, even if it was just for a 7th round pick.
Yeah, I keep saying that, where I think that there's a chance that one of those guys gets traded, maybe to the Dolphins, even, who really need cornerback help. I know it seems crazy. People are going to probably be like, why would they trade for Najee Johnson? He's been a starter in the NFL, right? I understand that he's been a guy who's had a lot of ups, but a lot of downs. But I think a team would do the 7th, the Amir Smith-Marset-esque type of move for a Najee Johnson and then a Josh Williams. My final one, I'll go Omar Norman Lott. I really want to see Omar Norman Lott look good. He looked fine, but we didn't see the pass rush juice that we were wanting to see. But what I will also point out is he put on a little bit of LBs to help out in the run game, right? He tried to get a little more bulky in hopes of being more of a 3-down guy. And I think he actually looked better in the run game. I was decently impressed with Omar Norman Lott in the run game. But I want to see what he looks like now. He's trying to get a little extra LBs on him. Can he still have some burst to get after the QB? So for me, Omar Norman Lott is a guy that I'll be trying to watch fairly closely.
Definitely on my list, because I saw something on tape last week from every other rookie that made me say, okay, I see what the Chiefs are projecting. I see what they saw. Haven't yet seen it with Omar Norman Lott. So
I will say this: he ate a double team on what it was, the goal line, and he's getting double teamed, and he still held his own in the run game, which was, I think, different from what we all thought he was going to be. So he might be different if he gains weight, but that was something that I saw that I go, all right, that was intriguing at least.
It's very similar to Brashard Smith holding up in pass pro. It's like not really what we wanted to see, but it is a trait or attribute that could win over the coaching staff and get them on the field. And he's a light guy. So if he's holding up against double teams, that wasn't something we probably expected to see in the first game. I thought about Jeffrey Bossa here. He looks like a human missile out there. I'm going to go with Jalen Royals with Hollywood Brown hurt and the looming suspension for Rashee Rice. I know we talked about him at the top of the program. I just think Jalen Royals is going to be an important insurance policy for these Chiefs, given what's happened with the wide receiver room. There's just been so much turbulence over the years, and we all have very high hopes for Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, including Taylor Swift. Obviously, she seemed very excited on the podcast about Xavier Worthy. But I think, look, Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown, I think they are perfect mentors for Rice and Worthy, given their body type and history in the league and everything. These guys just can't stay healthy. So I want them on the roster. I'm rooting for them. I think they have utility. I just don't think we can count on them for 17 games. I don't even think we can count on either one of them for 10 games at this point. So Jalen Royals, hey, I like what I saw the first week. The moment was not too big for him. He looked comfortable. He looked confident. And it sounds like with the almost unlimited installs the Chiefs seem to have on offense between Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, he's picking it up like a sponge. So I'm very excited about Jalen Royals.
Love it.
That is all we got for you guys today. We're going to be back tonight, late, probably, I don't know, midnight Central or so, with Patrick Allen and myself doing the post game after the Chiefs wrap up in Seattle. So be sure to tune in later tonight. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. Subscribe here on YouTube. If you haven't yet, what are you doing? Also hit like, but that helps us out a lot. And make sure you never miss a show. If you are an audio listener, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. And on Spotify, you can actually leave a question and we will answer it on the Thursday show with Patrick Allen. Lastly, check out the mothership, arrowheadaddict.com. They're going to have blanket wall-to-wall coverage of this Seahawks matchup, both before and after the game. I know Matt Connor and the gang do a great job over there. Join us live next Friday at 3 p.m. Central right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.